This is Camnet World News. Thank you so much for joining us on the main news desk with me, Kalan Moshima. A quick look at the headlines. 598.1 million allocated for the 2021 general elections out of the 119.6 billion KWACHA national budget. PF's EMMANUEL BANDA committed to the High Court for trial. COVID-19 cases continue to drop. And in international news, G7 to back a debt freeze extension for poor nations. In sports news, NUMBA MUMAMBA is new ZESCO United coach. Join me shortly for the news in detail on the other side.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a filmmaker? Well, you are exactly what we're looking for.
Camnet TV is calling on local filmmakers. For more details,
You can visit our headquarters in Ibex Hill, next to Hilltop Hospital.
contact us on
0962 444 726. Camnet TV.
not just another channel.
Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. All right, we continue with the news and other headlines. Finance Minister Waliang Ngandu has unveiled the 2021 national budget to the nation. Dr. Ngandu proposes to spend 119.6 billion kwacha in 2021, representing 32.6% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. The 2021 national budget has recorded an increase from last year's 106 billion kwacha. We have more in the following report. The long wait is over. Zambians' expectations have either been met or not following the presentation of the 2021 national budget by Finance Minister Waliang Ngandu. Dr. Waliang Ngandu has increased his spending from 106 billion kwacha in 2020 to 119.6 billion kwacha in 2021.
Mr. Speaker, Government proposes to spend 119.6 billion kwacha in 2021, which translates to 32.6% of GDP. Of this amount, 68 billion kwacha, representing 18.5% of GDP, will come from domestic revenue and grants. The balance of 51.6 will be raised through financing. Sir, the fiscal deficit is targeted to reduce to 9.3% of GDP.
He explains that 68 billion kwacha will be raised from domestic revenue, such as taxes and monies coming from toll gates, which has contributed 911.1 million kwacha as of August this year.
Mr. Speaker, the allocation of resources in this budget is based on priority areas identified in the Economic Recovery Program, which is aligned to the rescoped 7th National Development Plan and further reflects government response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
As the 2021 general elections slowly approaches, the minister set aside 598.1 million kwacha for the 2021 general elections, which include voter registration.
598.1 million kwacha is for the 2021 general elections, while 1.2 billion kwacha has been allocated to the Local Government Equalization Fund. Sir, 2.8 billion kwacha will be spent on dismantling of arrears owed to suppliers of goods and services as well as personnel. In this will help improve liquidity and stimulate economic activity.
Out of the 119.6 billion kwacha national budget, over 46 billion kwacha will go towards debt service, both external and domestic.
I propose to spend 57.8 billion kwacha on general public services. Of this amount, domestic debt interest will account for 18.3 billion kwacha, while external debt service will be 27.7 billion kwacha.
From these statistics, it is clear that the country's expenditure has continued to go up either positively or negatively, considering that in 2019, the country's national budget stood at 86.8 billion kwacha, which increased to 106 billion kwacha in 2020, and now the current 119.6 billion kwacha, which is for the 2021. Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News. Meanwhile, Kaputa Member of Parliament Maxa Singonga has welcomed the budgetary allocation towards the agriculture sector in the 2021 national budget. Finance Minister Walyangandu has allocated over 5.7 billion kwacha towards the agriculture sector. Reacting to the post-budget presentation, Mr. Ngonga, who is also Agriculture Committee Chairperson, says the increased allocation towards the sector will help add value to the sector. He explains that agriculture being one of the economic pillars of the economy, such developments are progressive. The 2021 national budget proposes to strengthen extension services and the proportion of beneficiaries on the KWACHA system, which will be increased to 100% over the medium term.
One budget that has just been presented by the Honorable Minister for Finance. For me, in the agricultural sector, I've been extremely excited in the sense that it's not only the quantums or the numbers of figures that have increased, from last year's budget, but also the fact that emphasis has been placed on the agriculture sector as one of the many drivers in order for us to prime or to improve our economic performance, especially following the impact of the COVID-19. So the monies that have been allocated to the Farmer Input Support Program has almost been doubled, and that's extremely exciting because coming 2021, we must see that the Zambian agricultural sector starts not only feeding itself, but also starts exporting to the outside country. And we can only do that when our farmers themselves are able to be empowered with the input and also with the market that is required. You could also see that there are some monies that have been allocated to value addition, especially to the horticulture sector. We're talking about the tomatoes. If that is realized and invested in, we see a number of farmers both within the urban circles and also places like Mkushi, where tomato is grown to a larger extent. We'll see them, value adding and contributing to the national economy. So for us in the agricultural sector, this is a wonderful budget that we look forward to.
All right, that's Mr. Maxa Singonga, who is the PF Member of Parliament for Kaputa. We now join Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane via Zoom, of course, to give his immediate reaction with regard to the budget which has just been presented. Remember, Honorable Msokotwane is the former Finance Minister and Economic Advisor to President Levi Mwanawasa and is the current Liua Member of Parliament under the ticket of the opposition, United Party for National Development. Sir, good evening, and you are live on Camnet's main news desk.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. I want to emphasize that we only have about 3 to 4 minutes with you, so we have to compress everything under those minutes. Firstly, the first question is your immediate reaction with regard to the budget which has just been presented to the nation.
My immediate reaction is that we are not addressing the elephant in the room, and that elephant is the issue of the excessive debt on Congolese that Zambia is carrying on its shoulders. It is this debt that is responsible for the exchange rate getting to more than 20. It is this debt in Congolese that is responsible for many of the problems that you see in the mining sector today, because they are owed lots of money, VAT refunds, and they cannot invest. The same debt problem is responsible for failure by government to hire more than 40,000 trained teachers because there's no money to pay them. There are so many other problems that go with this issue of debt, and somehow I think the government is not coming out clearly, A, to acknowledge the problem, and B, to show commitment to solving that problem. So as long as that is not done, I'm afraid many of the statements that are being made about reviving the economy will remain unfulfilled and implementable. That's my first reaction.
All right. You've raised issues of a date, and the finance minister alluded to the fact that government remains committed to dismantling this debt. Among the issues he raised include that he touched on the issue to do with debt cancellation, postponements, and rescoping of projects. He also informed the nation that a contraction of new commercial external debt has been cancelled, while $1.1 billion pipeline loans have also been cancelled. Is that not the right step in the? Is that not a step in the right direction?
It is not enough, Kalan, and perhaps not the most serious issue here. The reason being that you must look at the balance between what the minister proposes to spend in 2021 and the money that is going to collect. That difference is called the deficit. Now, that deficit automatically increases to the amount of debt that is there. Now, last year's target for the deficit was 5.5. Of course, in practice, it has been more than that, at 11%. For 2021, the minister proposes the deficit at 9.1%. That is a very big gap, which means that rather than us reducing debt or even lowering the rate at which we are accumulating it, in actual fact, the level of debt is still rising. So, yes, the minister can talk about what he did, but the reality of the situation is that the level of debt is going to climb even higher next year. And this is where the problem under PF has been. Year after year, you've been listening to colleagues saying, we are going to expect only to what we have. We are going to consolidate the finances. We are going to reduce the deficit. But in practical terms, they do the very opposite. It is that very opposite between statement and what is actually done that has landed us to where we are today, where debt has become a very serious problem. And if we don't handle it properly, we could be headed to inflation rate of 100%, 1,000 billion, because we are failing now to borrow from outside, and the target now is to borrow more inside Zambia, but the commercial banks cannot take this burden. So the danger here is that the Bank of Zambia is going to put under pressure to print money. Okay, they're going to be put under pressure to print money. Already they've started the printing money, and this is the danger about us getting to inflation rates in the hundreds, thousands, possibly even more. We could be approaching situations which we have seen in some neighboring countries and outside the region where inflation becomes a big problem. So I would want to see the minister and the government to tackle this problem of debt heads-on so that we can all agree that indeed these many problems that we faced are being tackled by tackling the issue of debt.
All right, so as I leave you, or as I let you go, from your end, what are some of these solutions that you are offering which the government should have been taking, practical steps in dismantling both external and domestic debt?
Some of the solutions include the need for government to spend less. I do not understand, for example, why the budgets for defense and security is rising so quickly. I think we also owe these fleets of police vehicles that were displayed on social media a few months ago. We wonder why it is necessary at this time to spend money on things like that. That's the expenditure that could have been cut. We are also aware that there's a lot of money that is being spent on by-elections. Every month or every other month, you hear by-elections sponsored by the PF, by the way. They incite or promise money to the UPNG councillors so that they can resign only for the purpose of having by-elections, which are expensive. So it was necessary, in my view, for the government to cut out all unnecessary expenditures, including the example that I've given, so that we can begin to balance our books between what we receive as revenue and grants and what we spend. At the moment, it's not happening, and this is very dangerous.
All right, sir, thank you so much for your time, and good evening.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Honorable Stumbeko Musokotwane, former Finance Minister and Economic Advisor to President Levi Patrick Monawasa, and is the current Liua Member of Parliament, just giving his immediate reaction to the budget, which has just been presented by Finance Minister Honorable Walyangandu. Remember, the national budget for 2021 stands at 119.6 billion kwacha. Further on in the news, the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, has expressed a concern at the lack of inadequate awareness on the online pre-voter registration process by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. ZCID Executive Director Doreen Njovu says it is sad that ECZ has not taken into account that this is the first time Zambia is using technology to register voters, and wonders why the Commission has opted to remain silent on the matter. Ms. Njovu says if not attended to, most Zambians will be disenfranchised from participating in the 2021 general elections. She says ECZ is conducting the process on behalf of Zambians, hence the need for the Commission to listen to concerns being raised by the same people. According to her, the lack of sensitization has brought about a lot of speculation and suspicions among stakeholders and the citizenry, stating that if not properly managed, that could be a source of conflict to destabilize the 2021 general elections. Ms. Njovu wonders why ECZ seems to be bulldozing its way through everything without adequate census consensus building, which may lead to serious consequences in the nation.
ZCID position on the online voter registration, prisoners' right to vote, and the high 2021 nomination fees. The Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue is deeply concerned about the inadequate awareness on the online pre-voter registration process, which was recently launched at the Mulungushi International Conference Center by the Electoral Commission of Zambia on Monday, 21st September 2020. It is unfortunate that the Commission decided to move on with the process while leaving behind the citizenry with little or no information on how to participate in this vital exercise. Concerns by the general public should have been addressed had the Commission preceded the exercise with voter education. On another note, the Commission has placed too much emphasis on the online voter pre-registration without effectively balancing and informing the people on the physical voter registration process, which shall be taking place in various registration centers across the country once the mobile voter registration period commences on the 28th October 2020. Many electorates and stakeholders are lacking this information, and more especially those in the rural areas where they have no access to internet. The lack of sensitization has brought a lot of speculation and suspicion among stakeholders and the citizenry, and if not properly managed, could be a source of conflict to destabilize the 2021 elections. As a Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, we are also deeply concerned at the lack of consensus building on key electoral issues such as prisoners' right to vote and the 2021 nomination fees. The Electoral Commission of Zambia seemed to be bulldozing its way through everything without adequate consent.
Suspended Patriotic Front, PF, Eastern Province Youth Chairperson EMMANUEL BANDA has been committed to the High Court for trial. This is in a matter in which EMMANUEL BANDA, who is commonly known as JJ, is jointly charged with 4 other PF cadres with 1 count of aggravated assault on police officers. Miriam Kayamba now reports.
This morning, the Lusaka's Magistrate Court was tight with security when suspended Eastern Province Patriotic Front Youth Chairperson EMMANUEL BANDA and his co-accused appeared for committal. BANDA, who is commonly known as JJ, made his second appearance before Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale since his arrest, was accompanied by some party sympathizers and family members. BANDA is currently also facing a charge of unlawful assembly in the Chipata Magistrate Court. JJ has been indicted along with 4 others and were taken to court for allegedly assaulting a police officer. He was before court for mention and possible committal for the aggravated assault offense to the High Court, as the case is only tried by the High Court. And State Prosecutor Malambo informed court that the letter to commit the matter to the High Court from the Director of Public Prosecutions was ready. Upon the certificate of committal, Magistrate Mwale committed the 5 accused to the High Court for trial proceedings. He informed the accused that they will appear before him for mention till the time they are taken to the High Court for their trial. In this case, JJ, 35, a businessman of Petauke District, is jointly charged with John Lungu, 26, of Garden House, Maxwell Pito, 20, of Lusaka West, Moses Leonde, 27, of Kanyama Compound, and Leofard Piri, 21, of a non-residential address. The 5 have been charged with aggravated assault with intent to steal contrary to the laws of Zambia. It is alleged that on July 26, 2020 in Lusaka, the 5 jointly and whilst acting together with others unknown and with intent to steal assaulted Alan Bauer. Miriam Kemba reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Now, to matters of health, especially COVID-19, the Ministry of Health has launched a new way of information sharing on the COVID-19 pandemic. This follows the reduction in COVID-19 updates by the ministry by 5 days. The new system is called the Zambia COVID-19 Dashboard. Speaking during the COVID-19 update, Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya disclosed that these dashboards have been developed with the purpose of enhancing the sharing of COVID-19 response information and outcomes. Meanwhile, the Health Minister has disclosed that in the last 24 hours, the country has recorded only 24 new COVID-19 positive cases out of 1,737 tests reported in 5 districts with no deaths recorded.
So in the last 24 hours, we recorded 24 new cases of COVID-19 out of 1,737 tests that have been reported in 5 districts. And these are Lusaka, Solwezi, Chongwe, Kalumbila, and Indola. The positivity continues to go down. And this is yet another day where we've scored very low positivity. The cumulative number of cases in the country now stands at 14,515, and they're broken down as contacts to known people, known cases, identified cases through health facility screening, and also those detected through community screening. Fortunately, in the last 24 hours, there have been no deaths. And therefore, our deaths still stand at 332, which are broken down as 111 due to COVID-19 and 217 COVID-related, while 4 are being classified. Countrymen and women, while we note a tapering COVID-19 positivity, reducing numbers of patients in our health facilities, it is worrying that we continue to see very ill patients in our facilities. Tapering positivity, low numbers of new cases, low numbers of people we admit, but the type of patients we are admitting are very sick patients. This then means that we really need to up our game in reporting symptoms early and seeking care quickly. Today we have 39 patients in our various hospital facilities, and 19 of these are on oxygen. The cumulative number of cases, therefore, in summary, stand at 14,515 out of the total number of tests that we have done, which are 148,066.
You are watching the Camnet World News. Still to come is an issue to do with motorists and, of course, overspeeding of motorists on some newly erected roads in Chilenge, and the residents are complaining that lives are being lost due to lack of speed humps. We go for a break. Join me shortly for more news.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not Pure Glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel KWACHA mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customer service at lwsc.com. Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
You're still watching the main news on Camnet TV. Thank you so much for still staying with us. And now we continue with the rest of the news. Residents of Lusaka's Chilenge area have appealed to government to quickly erect speed humps on newly constructed roads in the area. The residents explained that due to lack of speed humps, the area has continued to record accidents. They have since appealed to their area councillor Patrick Mwape to take up the matter. Here's a report.
What I am saying, my concern is that yesterday I did at 14 hours Mwape twakula milolera mwe bantu mula samkutulomba panomba line nshitayala afika mkesa mkula tufukamina mwe bantu mvotereni but ngatwami votera ya failing to work. You are failing us, Mr. Mwape, which always there. We've been having accidents there. It's not the first one.
A conversation between Ward 8 area councillor and Chilenge residents got heated after the angry residents accused him of not addressing the need of speed humps on Bama Road, something that they've been complaining about for a long time. The residents set up a peaceful stage in the early morning of 25th of September 2020 with posters saying, "Save lives by slowing down." A peaceful stage by the residents to raise concern over the continued road accidents that have continued happening on Bama Road due to lack of humps was disrupted by officers who later came at the scene. The residents have complained that Bama Road does not have speed humps, which has contributed to an increase in the number of road accidents. The residents disclosed to Camnet TV that just yesterday, a woman was bashed and died on the spot.
Bama Road area between Chikoleka, somewhere before Interland, we have this newly constructed road which we really appreciate, but the problem is we found some humps and pedestrian crossing. We have a school where we have children who goes to school every morning, afternoon and coming down from there. So of late we had several accidents and we lost about 10 lives. Yesterday we lost a life just here around this area.
The residents are now demanding for speed humps so as to avoid more accidents.
Challenge is every day we see accidents, and our biggest fear is our children, because the children go to school every day and there's no pedestrian here. There are no ramps, no pedestrian. We tried to call the councillor yesterday. He said he's at council, but he hasn't given us the feedback. So now we don't know what to do. So we've taken this thing on our own hands. Maybe the government can help. What we want is humps and pedestrian for the children for crossing.
road ilibe mahampu kufuna mahampu bantu bafa inowiki bafa bantu batatu same place ziko.
Meanwhile, Patrick Mwape, the ward councillor, told Camnet TV during a phone interview that the matter is being worked on.
Yes, the Bama Road opposite the mosque. You know where the mosque is?
Yes.
Yeah, that area, I think there have been a number of some accidents here and there, and the council is aware because they are in the process of putting the hump for that area. The director of engineering even yesterday was on the ground to assess the situation. And when we talk of the Bama Road covers two constituencies, two wards. The Rubwa ward, which falls under Lusaka Central, and the Chilenjo, which falls under KWACHA constituency. So both the councillors who have been engaged RTA to ensure that they put sufficient, RTA and the council, they put a good number of arms, especially in those spots which are very dangerous. And that spot, it has been identified as a dangerous spot.
It is, however, hoped that the matter is addressed soon as to avoid more road accidents. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
In other news, government has launched the community-based inclusive development skills training curriculum that will enable the transfer of knowledge and skills on disability matters. Ministry of Community Development and Social Services Permanent Secretary Pamela Kabamba says the introduction of the CBID training will contribute towards the implementation of a community-based inclusive development as an integral component of the 7th National Development Plan. Ms. Kabamba says the CBID has been made possible by government's pro-poor policies. Speaking during the launch, Ms. Kabamba says government's desire is to have persons with disabilities enjoy equal opportunities that are fundamental for living and development by 2030.
Happiness and the joy that comes with this development. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to inform you that this CBID Skills Award course being launched today is first of its kind in our education sector to be offered in Zambia. The introduction of the CBID training will not only enable the transfer of knowledge and skills on disability matters, but will also contribute towards the implementation of community-based inclusive development as an integral component of the 7th National Development Plan. This has been made possible by the government's pro-poor policies under the able leadership of our President, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who does not want to leave anyone behind. As you may be aware, persons with disabilities constitute 7.7% of Zambia's total population for adults, with 4.4% for the children. To demonstrate this inclusive approach that government has adopted, in our programs that we are running as a ministry, one of the major programs that we are running, which is social protection, you find that 73,138 households with a person or persons with disability benefit from the social cash transfer. Apart from this program that I've mentioned, we have persons with disabilities that are beneficiaries under the Food Security Pack. We have also beneficiaries under the empowerment programs that the ministry is running. Ladies and gentlemen, the vision of government is to have persons with disabilities enjoying equal opportunities that are fundamental for living and development by 2030. Allow me to emphasize that persons with disabilities must enjoy the same rights as everybody else in Zambia.
And speaking at the same event, Zambia Federation for Persons with Disabilities Program and Advocacy Manager Michael Mutamba says despite Zambia's growing democracy, persons with disabilities have continued to be socially excluded from employment, health services, political participation, infrastructure development, and access to justice.
ZAFOD and the disability movement in Zambia envisions a society where persons with disabilities enjoy rights and opportunities with others that are generally and specifically available in society, which are necessary for fundamental elements of living and development. We envision a society in which persons with disabilities are viewed as equal partners in development, as subjects of engagement and participation in public life. Honorable Minister, the Zambian government demonstrated unprecedented political will on 9th May 2008 by signing the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD. Its optional protocol on 29 September 2008, which was later ratified in 2010 and began to be domesticated in 2012. Furthermore, the government of the Republic of Zambia demonstrated leadership by going a step further to develop its disability policy and implementation framework, enacted the Anti-Gender-Based Violence in 2011, and in the same year revised the Education Act of 2011. The Education Act focused on promoting inclusive education, thereby opening all schools in Zambia to all learners and advocating that every teacher should educate all learners.
President Edgar Lungu says that the COVID-19 pandemic has presented opportunities for all countries to be innovative, work collaboratively in finding solutions to the pandemic, making a presentation at the Virtue 75th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations Thursday under the theme, The Future We Want, United Nations. President Edgar Lungu reaffirmed Zambia's commitment to the agreement made in 2015 of not leaving anyone behind. President Lungu also says that Zambia supports the call for major interventions such as debt relief and enhanced collaboration on the research on the cure of COVID-19. He says due to the negative effects of COVID-19, more people are likely to lose employment.
The future we want, the United Nations we need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism, confronting COVID-19 through effective multilateral action, presents us an opportunity to evaluate the existing multilateral approaches to address the challenges affecting our people. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only decimated economies and exacerbated poverty, but it has also shown us how interconnected and interdependent our world is and how we must work together to respond effectively to these challenges that confront us today. Under these circumstances, an opportunity has manifested itself on the need to maximize our cooperative advantages as well as share expertise, technologies, innovations, and indigenous knowledge to be utilized for the betterment of our people's livelihoods. I remain confident that with the concerted efforts and unity of purpose, together we can conquer this pandemic on a global scale. The post-coronavirus landscape will require urgent action to guarantee recovery and to lay a solid foundation for a better world. Accordingly, Zambia supports the call for major interventions such as 1. Debt relief and or cancellation for developing member states. 2. Enhanced collaboration in research for the vaccination and cure of COVID-19. And 3. Mobilization of resources from the local and international community. Mr. President, prior to the onset of the COVID-19, young people were already 3 times more likely to be unemployed compared to their adult counterparts. As the pandemic pushes the global economy into a deeper crisis, the young generation is once again at risk to disproportionately bear the brunt of mass unemployment and under protection. In this regard, I wish to share that the Zambian government launched a multi-sectoral youth empowerment program to support the young entrepreneurs.
We go for another set of commercials. Up next is international and sports news. Don't go away.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. It's now time for international and sports news. In international news, G7 finance ministers are expected on Friday to signal their support for extending a debt relief program aimed at helping the poorest countries weather the coronavirus pandemic. 3 sources briefed on the issue said the ministers of the group of 7 advanced economies are set to meet by video conference on Friday to discuss global economic developments and the continued effect of the coronavirus, which has infected nearly 32 million people worldwide. Although the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has argued in favor of extending the debt relief programs year-end deadline by a year through to 2021, the G7 ministers are likely to back an initial extension of 6 months, the sources said. The G7 finance ministers backing for an extension of the debt moratorium through June 2021 would help us smooth the way for a decision by the larger G20 grouping. The group of 20 finance ministers are set to meet on October 14th through, though the decision would likely be formally adopted by G20 leaders at their summit in November. It's now time for sports news. In sports, Zambia Super League side ZESCO United has confirmed the appointment of former sensational Zanaco coach NUMBA as the new manager of the Ndola-based outfit, as earlier reported by the Zamfort crew. NUMBA was unveiled Friday morning at Trade Fair grounds. NUMBA, who is fondly referred to as Magic, has penned a 3-year deal with Team ZESCO. NUMBA takes over from George Lwandamina, popularly known as Chicken George, who left the club earlier this week and will be assisted by Noe Mwandila as the first assistant and Emmanuel Swale as the second assistant. MUMAMBA 42 has managed at the highest level for the Zambian game in the last 6 years, winning the Fire's MTN Super League title in 2016, the ABSA Cup Championship in 2017, and reaching the group stage of both the Confederation of African Football Championship League and the Confederations Cup, respectively. ZESCO United Chief Executive Officer Richard Mulenga has announced NUMBA's appointment. This story is courtesy of Zamfoot Sports. And that item brings us to the end of our main news. But before we go, a quick look at the headlines once more. 598.1 million allocated for the 2021 general elections out of the 119.6 billion kwacha national budget. PF's EMMANUEL BANDA committed to the High Court for trial. COVID-19 cases continue to drop. And in international news, G7 to back debt freeze extension for poor nations. While in sports, we had NUMBA being appointed as new ZESCO United coach. And of course, as we end, now we look at the Camnet World Verse of the day, which is coming from the book of Psalms 121, verse 1 to 8, and it reads, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going both and forever. That has been the Camnet World News, and we've come to the end of it. My name is Kala Mchima, your host. Thank you so much for your company. God bless you and good night.